Hello, I'm Tommy Moore from the Bartitsu lab, and in this video we're going to be looking at this wee beastie here. This is known as a thumb dagger or a thumb knife, and it's a very common tool in espionage self-defense, essentially. So in World War II, SOE agents and the like would have been equipped with these. You'll notice that in this leather sheath there are small holes punctuated around the edge, and this is so I can sew this into lapels, into collars, into sleeves, into the inside of a waistband, into any number of places that make sense based on what you wear and the role you're playing. You know, a man that's playing a white-collar accountant or a translator will have different manner of clothing and therefore different opportunities to, say, a female typist or a homeless man or any number of guises that you might be in when you might be equipped with an item such as this. But what's the purpose of it? So as you can imagine, you've got this leather sheath, and it's designed to be hidden. It's designed to be clandestine. It's designed to pass muster if you have a general pat down. Albeit it's very suspicious having on your person if it is found. So you pull on this, and you've got this double-edged dagger here. Double-edged dagger, about 1.5 inches. There's lots of varying designs for this. This one has little indentations and grips, and so I can hold it in a pinch grip and have relative surety of it. I can have a pretty sure grip. And it's a pretty wide and robust blade. Because it's short, it needs to be sturdy. So this is the thumb dagger and this is the sheath. Now, why would you use this? Why would you have it? Well, that's an interesting question, because in all honesty, this is very suspicious. So there is no plausible reason why a mechanic or a translator or a typist should have something like this sewn into their lapel, inside the breast of their jacket, on the waistband of their trousers, unless you were up to no good. And you'll notice that the features of the blade, this one is relatively sharp, but, to cut someone properly with this, you have to be very close. It's not massively a cutting tool. You can use it to cut things relatively easily, but cutting a person with this is relatively difficult unless it's in a very exposed area, such as the face, the throat, and the hands. This won't cut through even thin cloth, really. And why would you have this? Why would you have this suspicious tool when there are many objects which could fulfill the same function, the same purpose of hurting another human being and be a lot more innocuous? So just for some flippant examples, a screwdriver. If you're a man or a woman and you'll showcase yourself in a blue collar role, it would be perfectly reasonable to have something like a screwdriver. Look at the amount of damage I can cause with the screwdriver compared to the thumb dagger. But this is a tool. This is an innocuous tool. You can still spike someone in the eye with it. You can still take someone down an artery with it. You can still stab this under an armpit. Probably be a lot more effective. It can still be relatively sharp, but it doesn't inherently cause as much suspicion as a purpose-built, leather-housed thumb dagger. You also got to understand that in the 1940s, when these were prevalent, it's not so weird for a person to be carrying a jackknife, because that was common. That was a thing that people did. Everything from a Swiss Army knife to a little trade knife to a box cutter. The carrying of knives is a lot more normalised and prevalent. If you imagine a lot of people, especially again in blue-collar roles, it would make sense for you to have a little bit of a jackknife. And again, just a like-for-like example. This is quite a large jackknife, but even the smaller Swiss Army knives have a longer blade than this and more plausible rationale. I carry this for my job. I carry this because I whittle things. I carry this for any number of reasons. This is a tool for pain and damage. These kind of knives can be a tool for any number of purposes. So again, it'd be a lot more commonplace to carry a knife. It wouldn't have seemed unnecessarily odd for you to do it, depending on your role. Even down to its very basic form. You're under the pretenses of a white-collar worker, now carrying things like pens and pencils, scissors and stationery. All of these things are in reality more effective. If you told me I needed to go into a fight right now and I had the choice of these scissors or this thumb dagger, I'm going with these scissors. I can put my finger through this loop, I can cap it with my thumb, I can cause some pretty serious damage. I could even, if I'm feeling a bit nuts, rip this into 2 singular blades. But either way, This is innocuous. It's about like for like in length. It's not particularly weird to own or carry or have on your person or have around you. It's a set of scissors. And it does just as much damage. So if you imagine, even things like a sharpened pencil, a sharpened pen, they're going to the same target areas, the eyes, the throat, the hands, the exposed areas. So a pretty sharp pencil, a pretty robust pen, or a thumb dagger, innocuous, suspicious. So it's a strange type of tool for clandestine operations, and I can't imagine they would have been particularly popular. They're quite cool, they're interesting, they're nuanced, it's a fun thing for people that are into World War II and into combatives. But in reality, there are many things that are normal to own, carry, have on you, a lot more innocuous, that you can use just as, if not more effectively, and are less likely to be taken off you. And if you are caught and searched, if you're thoroughly searched, this might be found inherently dangerously suspicious. Also, this is my pencil, because I write things down. I have it on my ear. I'm a tradesman. That's not suspicious. That's not weird. So, just some thoughts about the thumb dagger. But let's say you do wish to use the thumb dagger. What ways could you use it? Well, imagine you've got this thumb dagger and you will have a place of preference where it is hid. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that it's sewn into the inner part of my sleeve. So at any one point, I can immediately withdraw the thumb dagger. It's a pretty clandestine tool. The main thing about a clandestine tool is you don't want people to see it until it's in them. You can threaten, you can dissuade, you can cut, you can do extended work with a longer blade, even a mid-level folding knife. Something like this isn't going to threaten many people. Its purpose is immediate shock, pain, damage. So let's imagine you use this tool. You need to find a place that's familiar for you to have it and get used to the notion of drawing it. And there'll be different drawing methodologies depending on where you have it. So imagine I've got it in my sleeve. My drawing habit might be to innocuously put my hands together and then I deploy it. That might be my particular motion. Let's say it's inside a waistband. That might be a hand in pockets job as you pull out. If you're playing the role of a school teacher, it might be inside a blazer or under a lapel. But again, you need to get used to a localized and bespoke withdrawal of this. And ideally, that withdrawal, there are two types you need to focus on. One is clandestine. So again, if I'm drawing this, let's imagine that there is no huge inherent suspicion right now. I need to be able to blend this into talking, withdraw and deploy. You also need to get used to a combative draw. So let's imagine that the gig's up. I need to be able to get used to firing a shot, firing another shot, taking that tool out, doing something else. Being able to combatively withdraw this mid-affray or as a preemptive shot, but mid-combat. So again, clandestine, you need to be able to talk, be convincing, look like you're in pain, whatever, I'm in pain, I'm innocent, I'm talking, I'm calm, thumb dagger to the eye. Or, by the opposite side of the coin, it is that the gig's up, smash, smash. At that juncture, I go from my sleeves draw, maintain, drive that into the eye. So you need to be able to get good at combative drawing of this. If it's in your waistband, that will be a different draw. You might hit out, draw with your right hand, and then do it. So hit, draw, stab. In the sleeve, it might be hit, elbow, draw, stab. Any number of variants. And they need to be bespoke to you, your body size, the role you're playing in the clothes that you wear. So combative and non-combative drawing of the weapon. That's the first thing you need to get good at, and seamless at, and smooth at under duress. Let's assume now that the weapon is in play. As soon as the naked blade is in play, it needs to start plugging this guy as fast as possible. And there are a couple of ways in which you want to do it. So obviously you want to take a secure pinch grip. So you want to make sure that it's pinched between the thumb and the forefinger, and that it is supported by the other fingers. And in essence now you have a super weaponized jab or cross or whatever tool you've got. But essentially, it's still your fist. It's a relatively oddly shaped fist, but it's still your fist. It needs that reinforcement to be a solid, penetrative tool. So you've got this tool. Imagine your shots, really. The purpose of this inferior weapon is twofold. It's to either escape. So I've been rumbled into the eye, into the throat, and I'm running off. And I'm off, and you notice the mixing in of the Defendu materials. The small blade in, the edge of hand out as I exit. 1, 2. So you should be able to flow anything from the World War II syllabus into using this, and it should work pretty well. And then gone. Could be downward edge of hand, strike it in. Could be reverse elbow, strike it in. Either way, there is typically a precursing shot or grab or manipulation. But if you want to escape, it's going to be a quick puncher to cause pain and disorientation for me to escape. And escape. And you need to be able to get used to stringing together the deception, the withdrawal, the prefacing strike, depending on the range, what you do. You might do chin jab, you might do edge of hand, you might punch, whatever you're comfortable in, what you're conversant in. It doesn't really matter, but typically it'll be one thing, use the weapon, escape and evade. Or secondary usage is, again, you deceive, you withdraw, you deploy, and the purpose of your deployment in this instance, let's say I've done the exact same motions, edge of hand, use the thumb knife to the eye, dominated the area where the superior weapon is, in this instance, a pistol. So I've used an inferior weapon to obtain a superior weapon. And if you imagine, depending on what type of soldier he may be or what type of police officer, he might have 2 or 3 superior weapons on his person. He may have a long arm, sidearm, a superior blade. So harvesting what he's got could be very, very fruitful. What you need to understand, however, is that if you've hit, you've deployed the blade, and you've acquired a superior weapon, you then need to make the judgment call as to whether you use the superior weapon to finish the opponent fully, or whether you can use, say, the superior weapon you've got here as a blunt tool to cause a knockout. So again, you can escape with all of the weapons, but finishing the job with this is going to be a hard task. Not impossible, but a hard task. So using it to escape makes a lot of sense. Hit, eye, hit, throat, run. No matter what you do, whatever hits you do, into the artery, into the windpipe, into the eye, behind the ear, all these maxillofacial areas, fair game for this. But in essence, leg it. If you're using it to acquire a superior weapon, same gig, secure that superior weapon, but then you need to make the decision as to whether you do use this, but bear in mind this can go boom, and that might not be what you want. You could use this as a blunt weapon, a cold weapon, take the man out of the game that way. You've knocked him out, you've stolen his weapons, but there hasn't been a murder of a person. But to actually finish the entire occasion with this is going to be very hard. If you were to do it, you'd have to take that into one of the arteries, you'd have to twist it and pull out, or you'd have to push it into one of the arteries, break it down, but essentially you want to cause the entry trauma will be relatively small. If you make your exit trauma via a twist or via a drag out of the arterial regions, he may well bleed out, but he may well not. Even if you punch this in, twist it, rip it out, you may be able to stem the flow. You might need to do it again somewhere else. People tend to be remarkably resilient at surviving stabbings, remarkably resilient in many cases, especially with a relatively small and relatively inefficient weapon. You could also take him to the eye. If you take him to the eye, odds are you'll cause horrendous trauma and he will likely drop, but he will also likely scream and essentially bring the whole house down on you. You might completely knock him out through the pain, through the damage to the eye. You may knock him out, or you may leave him horrendously screaming and causing much alarm and much ado. So in reality, for me, the thumb knife It's got many weaknesses, such as its heightened suspicion nature compared to normal knives, compared to pencils, compared to pens, compared to scissors. It does raise suspicion. If you do use it, it's quite a trained skill to be able to withdraw it in conversation or in combat. If you do use it, I really believe its main purpose should be to stun, damage, and escape, or stun, damage, acquire a superior weapon. But finally, if you do only have this to finish the show, then you're going to have to make sure it is efficiently applied to arterial regions or firmly into the eye, which sounds gross and horrible, but that's the nature of these things. But that's my summation of the thumb knife. You can get very good at using this in many places. You can also jam it into hands and other places to cause pain and damage. So if a grip is affixed and you want to release that grip, you may wish to use the thumb dagger into that hand. But in reality, this is a weapon of stealth and surprise. They shouldn't see it coming until it's in their eyeball or until it's in their artery. That's the purpose of this. But in the main, it's to help you escape or acquire something superior. So as a step 1 weapon, very, very good. I have no major issues with it. It's very concealable. But for my money, even back then, I should imagine that a stout pencil, scissors, screwdriver, or things of that ilk can do the same, if not more, with much less suspicion. That's my little pressy on the thumb dagger.